So for today's video and adventure, we're going to be starting it inside the truck here for just a minute, just because around the beginning of the trailhead there's several people kind of crowded around. But what we're doing today is going to be kind of two hikes in one. The first part of it is going to be the profile trail that goes to Callaway Peak here at Grandfather Mountain. And then from the peak, we're going to go on past that and down the mountain. I think it's around 1.5 miles to a campsite that we're going to backpack camp on. That'll be on past the Callaway Peak will be the Daniel Boone Scout Trail, and the campsite will be just off that. I think it's around a mile to a mile and a half. And between where the trailhead starts to Callaway Peak from the profile trail is around 3.5 miles there. And I think we're going to have some pretty strenuous elevation gain, somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000 feet of elevation gain. But I'm parked here at the parking lot here for the profile trail. This is off, I think it's NC 105. And yeah, you don't have to, you won't enter this one from the Blue Ridge Parkway like you do the Boone Fork parking, where you start the Grandfather Trail or the Daniel Boone Scout Trail. So we're gonna grab the bag and make a few adjustments, and then we'll have to fill out a permit up here at the restrooms, and then we'll hit the trail and get going. So I'm gonna continue on. The one we're going to there. And here the trail begins. Just as a side note, whenever you fill out the permit, if you are camping, you have to put all of your vehicle information, license plate, color, all that. So before you leave the car, just make sure you have that handy if you don't have it memorized, which I did not. Just something to keep in mind. Also, it is about, here at the base, it is about 75 degrees. Felt a little warmer than that actually in the parking lot, because there's just no shade in the parking lot at all. But as soon as you hit the shade here, you can tell it's just a few degrees cooler, which it will cool down on our climb here. May not feel like it because of how strenuous this is going to be, but it will definitely cool down some at the top. And as I mentioned before, the second part of this, where we're going to go from Callaway Peak to my campsite, will be downhill. So as far as today, the hike to Callaway Peak, just 3.6 miles, will be a climb, and then we'll be climbing down to the campsite. So at least we'll kind of get a break for that. So that's that. Passing our first little landmark on the trail here. This kind of small bridge. Not very far in the trail at all. First few tenths of the mile seem to be pretty leveled off, which I know is an attempt to fool you, but seems to be relatively dry for the most part too so far. I'm not sure if it's rained here in the last week or not. Back home it's rained, so I'm back during the weekend, but it's been 4 or 5 days since it's rained. Maybe the same case for this. Also, this trail is marked with this color diamond. Because eventually we'll cross paths with several other different trails. Coming up on what's kind of a switchback. It goes around through here and then back on the other side over there, and then we'll go back that way. Kind of see where some of these limbs here, I'm not sure if they were just pushed off the trail or this trying to dam up in a sense, but odd that they're just right on the trail. I think I passed one couple hiking in so far, and then maybe 3 or 4 couples coming back out past me. The parking lot was almost full. There may have been like 4 or 5 spots, but wasn't a whole lot of room left. So I know there's people out here somewhere. A little mushroom right here. Yeah, some little petals falling off the tree. So coming up on another switchback, it's going to take us, well, kind of hard to see from here, but it may continue on, or you can go back down this way. I'm not really sure if that'd go back to the parking lot or what that would do. And also, in some of the reviews I read for this trail, you could hear a lot of road noise. So far, I will totally agree with that, because you can hear a lot of cars passing by on 105 there. I mean, after a minute, it's kind of I'm able to kind of zone it out. But okay, so this is a connector trail. This is the new part. I think that way, well, that way definitely. If you go that way, that's the new part. Not really exactly sure what it does, if it adds or makes it take less time, but we're going to stick to the original, which appears to be going back towards where we come from. So the noise may stay with us a bit longer. Which will be fine. We're still continuing down. Now you can see a car going by. We're actually pretty close to the road, and we're gonna be walking along creek side here for just a little bit, it looks like. This is the first sound of water I've heard on the trail. Haven't really checked how far in, because my phone is running the navigation track is in my bag. some mesh wiring over these rocks. I guess to hold them in place so they don't wash out maybe. I walk between some trees here. Interesting enough, the last few hundred yards have all been downhill. So maybe up from here at this point, maybe. Up and back down a little bit. So it basically just went down that side of the creek. Now we're coming back up the other side. At some point I felt like they could have made it to where you could have just simply crossed it, but I guess I figured that would be taking some of the fun out. Now I believe we're at a lower elevation than the parking lot was. It's going to be a real clean climb to get up to Callaway Peak. That's at 5,900 feet. Continuing on. Starting to see a few more people. All right, now we're talking. Probably going to be uphill from that sign back there for sure, but I want to say we at least hit a mile up at this point, so the only part of this is tough. We'll see. Just a little bit warmer than I anticipated here where we're at now, but we're powering through. After 2 or 3 more switchbacks, all uphill, we've reached one semi-flat spot here. Between the heat and the uphill direction now, it's starting to feel it just a little bit. But it's all about pacing. Try to get in another half a mile before I take a break. Get the bulk of the worst part done if I can, and then continue on. I'm grateful for the shade though. See, this is an existing trail here. This is the first time I've done this trail, just like the majority of the hikes on this channel. They're all from a first time visit perspective. So I don't know the history of any changes been made to it or anything like that, other than I just recently added the connector portion that just opened not long ago. It's steady climbing now, continuing on. Coming up on another crossing here. Well, it's not a crossing, it's just the connector. So continuing left. That way would take you back to where we saw the first sign, I'm quite certain. Pass another couple coming up. spot here, and then we're gonna go up to where this fallen tree with the moss on it. We're gonna curve back to the left. Go around that way. Kind of flatted from here all the way to the curb, and then I can see where it starts climbing again. Nice and quiet and peaceful through here. Going around a blind curve here. Can't quite see what's on the other side yet. Oh yeah. Maybe a sign up here? Yeah, I think there is. Some little post of some sort. I believe I can hear some water in the distance. I was just telling you where we're at. So we're at 1.5 miles, 3.5. So we got 2 miles to go. Approaching the halfway point. What is known as, based on my research, the second most difficult trail in Grandfather Mountain here. A change of environment here. Went from just a dirt trail between trees. Now we're surrounded by some pretty heavy roots and rocks. Enormous rock formations. Wow, if it's this way for the next good while, this 2 styles of trail in one here. Wow. They've hauled this rock right here in here. Or busted one up one, maybe. I just passed an Asian man running from down this stretch here. Going up the hill. Camera's not going to do it justice, but it's a pretty steep hill right here. And he was sprinting. So I got out of his way. And he said thanks. He was moving so fast he wouldn't have heard me. I just said, "You're welcome." Sounds like I hear a large group up ahead somewhere. It's getting time to get an area for a break. Get some water out. No public access. There's at least a dozen people down there. Parking lot's that way. Ooh, this is a steep hill here. So a little spot that I was planning on taking a break at was a little overcrowded, so kind of continuing on. I came from this way down there. going through here. Way up through there, we see that guy walking. A lot of greenery lined on sides through here. Be careful to not try to avoid touching some of it. So far overall, the trail is very well marked and very easy to follow. It does play tricks on you. You start out going down a little bit and you're up, and it flattens out, and you walk up on some great big rock formations across a creek. And then you just get the hills here. I would say all of the elevation gain is probably in the last mile of this, I bet. Last mile of the summit. But we're continuing on. So just stopped and had a water break just on the trail, so sort of recharged a little bit. Now we're continuing on. I think we're around just before the 2 mile mark. So we're getting there. Slowly but surely. Ooh. This is definitely one of the harder ones I've done. Might even be a contender for the most challenging one I've done.
My cup is better and has more ice, so I'm pour it in my cup. Share. I'm going to put it in there.
Huh?
That means you're trying to give me that look like,
Just gonna scramble over a few rocks here. Continue up that way where them people just come from. Haven't checked the elevation gain yet, but I'm almost certain we've crossed the 1,000-foot increase mark. We reached a bit of a flat spot here. Got a food cable here. Type of food. And our first campsite on the trail is right here. If I remember correctly on the map, this should be the profile site. Surprisingly, there's no one here. At least not yet. Very big site. There's your main tent spots right here. There's some rocks around you and a nice fire pit area right there. All right, continuing on. Interesting rock formation here. So we're going up small switchbacks now, kind of back to back together. There's a huge rock formation up above here. That's this one. Maybe we're starting to get close to the peak. Maybe. So I'll switch to wide angle here so we can capture this giant boulder a little better. It's enormous. Definitely the largest on the trail so far. Trail gets rockier and more rocky. Roots. A lot of stepping up. Definitely rocky. Bit of a scramble right here. I'm gonna put the phone up for this. Coming up on this little sign right here. Oh, the profile view. So that's the profile view there. They say this is a face right here. Face of a grandfather. Very interesting. Been pretty tough so far. First mile and a half. You know, I would say it's a easy to moderate hike, but after that, it's a different story. Continuing onward this way. Continuation of nothing but rocks through here. Oh. Austin. More rocks. Just crossed paths with the older gentleman who informed me that there's a nice spring coming up. We can stop and take a break and get a drink of the water there and top off my bottle that I just emptied on the way, and then I'll put me back at 3 full bottles. So that's good news. I knew that Shanty Springs, the name of it. I knew that was on the trail somewhere, but he was telling me that it's right on this trail, like not gonna have to go a ways off or anything. We'll go right by it. Good to know.
But they've recorded some amazing peaks. Glimpse peaks right there in my grandfather. Yeah, I forget what the records were, but I remember they were pretty impressive. Like Hurricane Ridge. That's where we went to the Olympic. Right. So probably got some good wind there too. So that's what it's called.
Just got a drink of water and topped off my bottles. So the water I started with has been refilled. Now we'll continue on to more rocks. Rocks and boulders. That's another sign up here. All right, under a mile to the peak, and then under half a mile to the gap. Probably gonna get even more rocky between here and there. Yep. All right, powering on. All right. I'm out here where the trail intersects. Connecting to the grandfather trail here. Swinging bridge to the right. Peaks to the left here. 0.4 miles. I'm sort of hoping that this is 0.4 miles, moderately flat. My legs are just about to give out. I want to say I overpacked in my bag, but I really didn't. Probably the opposite, if anything. It's just been a tough hike. But we're almost there. Continuing on. This is a different look for the trail. So this has kind of been smoothed out in this little stretch. I ran off there. Peak is 3/10 of a mile from here. We made it to 1/10 of a mile from Callaway. Very tired and hungry and dirty. I'm gonna get up there and hopefully there's a spot to sit and rest. And then we'll get down to the campsite, probably rest again, and set up camp. All right, we made it. A little 4-step ladder and then we're up there. So Callaway is actually just a little ways over. I think this may be Watauga, or just before it won. The visibility is not the best today because it's overcast and cloudy, but definitely way up here. This is one of the old ladders. Probably replaced that one. We got one more at the top of it. We'll be at the top of the peak. Climb up this, and there's a ladder. All right, so this is definitely Callaway Peak. It's overcast. The view is not that great. But you can see a couple of the ranges. You can see, I believe it's the park. Yeah, it's the parkway down there. X marks the spot. It's just under 6,000 feet. Maybe Maybe tomorrow on the way back. Have a little more clearing, possibly. We'll see. That's when we'll be here next. Tomorrow morning. Alright, so what we're going to do now is hike back down the other side on, get on the scout trail for about, I think it's 1.3 miles, as I said earlier. It'll get us to the campsite we're going to be camping at. And along the way, we're going to pass a shelter camping spot and either the one or two other campsites. And then there'll be one surprise after that. That most of you, if you're familiar with this area, you already know this there. But if you're not familiar, then probably don't know about it. But we will see that before too much longer. It is downhill for the next, well, to the campsite, so it's a bit of a relief because it has been kind of a brutal hike, especially lugging this 30-pound bag here. So I'm ready to kind of settle in and relax. Was a little nervous about doing and staying up here alone, but I'm so tired now. I'm ready to set up and lay down, get comfortable. All right, continuing on. So the last time I was up here, I'm gonna say it was in April, there was ice on this rock formation right here. Icicles, 10, 11 inches long probably. Definitely different now. So we've got this ladder and one other to get down. Not the one laying there, that's an old portion. But this one and one more to get down to make our way to the campsite. Just including that. About 15 or 20 steps on each, I believe. All right. Made it down the first. Now we're heading down the second. Down we go. Some of the old ladders. You see one of them looks like it broke right there in the end. I made it to the campsite, or first campsite, not mine, but first one on the way. It's occupied. Now we're approaching the little surprise I mentioned. This is the plane crash site. Main part and scattered around here. Another section here. Wing. Another section. Interesting to see something like this just on top of a mountain. This has been here for decades. If you do a search for Grandfather Mountain plane crash site, probably another video that I did will probably be there early in the history, and then there'll be some documentation on different websites that'll give you specific details of dates of when, and you know, more about what happened and everything. Pretty neat to see. This first campsite is right across from this. It's called Raven's Roost. Actually have a wooden platform there to put your tent on, which I will not have, but I think there may be one more campsite before mine, and then we'll be at mine. Goes a little faster when you're walking downhill. Carrying on. So we're at the next campsite, which is the shelter. It's not mine. I'm just gonna go down here and check it out. Just from the back side. I'm not gonna walk around the front. I'm gonna be occupied. I think I've made it to my campsite. My little path that goes to it is just a little ways off the trail. I have it marked so it's easy to follow. So this is my campsite for the night. I do have a fire pit already kind of made up. Fires are allowed here. I'm thinking about doing that. I'm gonna see. I'm pretty tired. I don't really want to have to gather much. If there's something close by, you know, we may do it, but it requires too much work. Really tired. So that's gonna do it for tonight. We'll pick back up in the morning on the hike back to Callaway and then the hike back down. Should be an easier day. See you in the morning. All right, it's the next morning. It's about 6:45. Did kind of have a rough night last night. Around the time we got settled in the tent, 11 o'clock or so, it was calm and peaceful, and then 30 minutes to an hour after that, wind started picking up, and then it started raining on and off. And so yeah, really didn't get a whole lot of sleep. Not much at all, really. But tent I have, it held up very well in the wind. You know, I was never questioning whether it was going to blow over or anything like that or collapse on me. It did really good. So we're going to got everything already packed up. So we're going to hit the trail. We got to kind of hike upward about a mile to a mile and a half, go back over the peak, and then go down the other side to connect to the grandfather trail for just a short piece. And then we'll be back on the profile trail. It'll be 3.5 miles back from there, which will be mostly downhill, but it's over a lot of rough terrain and rocks. So probably looking at, I'm thinking 2.5 to 3 hour hike back, hopefully. So I also wanted to mention this campsite right here. It has, I'm not sure what exactly they're called, but there's some type of fir. It's like a Christmas tree. And you can really smell it whenever you're kind of walking around the camp area here. That's kind of a nice touch that I didn't know about. But I don't know that I'll return to this one. If I do come back here and camp, we'll probably try a different one just to try something new next time. But it'll probably be a good while before we venture out and do that again. But we're gonna hit the trail and start hiking back. So I made it up the first of the 2 longer ladders. Now I'm fixing to climb the second. No visibility, just a little moisture blowing at the peak. Nice breeze to cool you off after your heart's probably coming up the last few steps of that. Down the rest of the ladders. Next stop is at the spring. Get some water. Here we go. So we made it to the spring. This may be the final stop. It's about 2.7 miles back to the parking lot from here. I may have to stop, to take a break. I think in the last 1.5 miles or so, there'll be some spots where you have to climb back up. So maybe taking a break after some of that. This is what the spring looks like. It just constantly runs. It's a slow drip, but it will fill your bottle up, and it's ice cold too. We're gonna hang out here for about 5 or 10 minutes and then keep on pushing and get past these rocks. All right, so I'm getting to the final stretch of the descent to the parking lot. So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this video up and kind of give my thoughts real quick. Thoughts on the trail itself. It's definitely rated hard for a reason. And do not let the first 1 mile to 1.5 miles fool you, because that part of the trail is, I would probably rate it as easy to moderate, as it is nothing compared to what comes after that. It's a lot of stepping over rocks, a lot of roots, a couple places you're going to be on all fours a couple times, and it is just very, very steep once you get past the first section. And take all that with considering I was toting a 30-pound bag. Now, as far as camping, if I had it to do over again, I probably would have waited and tried to get waited for availability on the Scout Trail campsite. I've been trying to plan to do this for a while, and that campsite has just not been available at the times I was able to come. So I kind of took what was available. So that would have cut the hike I did in half, and it wouldn't have had to went up and down all 6 of the ladders that I went up and down there and back. And I think it would have just been much better experience if I would have just waited that out. But I would not recommend doing it the way I just did it to anyone. It was tough. 30-pound bag. It's just made my shoulders and my whole body really just exhausted. I had to take more breaks than I usually take. And by the time I got to the end, I was just really, really tired. The campsite, everything was fine with it, other than the weather, how it was last night. There weren't any issues there. Never saw any wildlife. Never had any problems at the campsite. Had just enough space. Probably had enough space where you could have had another tent the size of mine, and maybe had 4 or 5 people there. But everything was fine with that. But yeah, it's definitely a tough trail. I think I've hiked on all the trails here in Grandfather Mountain State Park, except I've hiked on portions of the Grandfather Trail, but I haven't done it from the swinging bridge side where you go up all the ladders and all that. I haven't done that yet, so that's one that's on my list, but it may be a while before we do that one. These last few months I've kind of stuck to doing trails that are hard, so maybe it's just time to take a little break from hiking for a little while, or at least stick to some that are easy or moderate, shorter hikes. But if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave a comment below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and please subscribe and ring the notification bell so you'll be notified next time I publish a video. Thanks for watching.